Rivera is on location in our nation's capital. He's at the Bureau today. Hey, Geraldo.
Good morning.
Hey, Steve.
Morning.
Hi, Ainsley.
I knew you were at CPAC last night.
Pete?
Let's talk a little. Yeah, Pete's in today.
Oh, we're old friends. Good morning.
It'll be interesting to see what the president does say at CPAC because he's been on this listening. He's had these listening meetings over the last couple of days, and it does sound like the president and the NRA are at loggerheads on a couple of things because the NRA does not want to raise the limit age-wise to buy one of the long guns. Also, they do not want more background checks. They are on the same page regarding, however, Geraldo, and we're going to play a soundbite, hardening the schools. Listen to this.
Unless you're going to have offensive capability, you're wasting your time. You're wasting your time. I want to end the problem. I don't want to have it where this happens again. And unless we're going to have an offensive capability, it's going to happen again and again and again, and it's going to be the same old story. We have to harden our schools, not soften them up. Okay, so Geraldo, should people in schools, whether it's teachers or paid security guards, have guns?
First, Steve, I don't want to brush over the fact that I spent a couple of hours with the president last Saturday night. He, on Friday, had visited the victims of the Parkland massacre, the survivors of that massacre, and he was deeply touched when we spoke. He could not believe the severity, the savagery of those wounds, and I really do believe that the president is keen now on doing something dramatic, something revolutionary. I do believe that he will advocate for this juvenile assault weapons ban, raising the age that a young person can buy one of these deadly machines from 18 to 21. I do think that he's going to do that. He's going to stick to his guns, and he is at loggerheads on that particular issue, and I am fascinated to see how that crowd will react to him when he says that. Now, in terms of hardening of the schools, I had a vice principal in my high school many, many years ago, obviously, who in the summertime was a New York State trooper, obviously trained and licensed to carry a firearm. He was also our assistant football coach. He's the guy in the school that I would be extremely comfortable being armed, and I believe that he is the kind of person that the President of the United States is talking about when he says we need some offensive capability in the school. We had some in Parkland, the bitter irony is, but the Broward deputies stayed outside and chickened out and let down the kids inside. So you had all the grown-ups sworn to protect those kids in Parkland, letting those kids down. The FBI not following through on what were clues that were shouted from the rooftops that this kid was a potential danger, and then you had the deputy outside, an armed deputy, who instead of going in as they are trained to do ever since Columbine, stayed outside and hid behind a concrete barricade.
Geraldo, that deputy, Scott Peterson, he had to resign. He resigned because his boss, the sheriff, and the superintendent of the school district said, why the heck were you outside for 4 minutes calling for backup when you could hear the guy inside killing 17 individuals and you never ran inside? What's your reaction? I mean, this guy was, when you count his overtime, he was making more than $100,000 and not running in when kids' lives were in danger.
Pete can tell you about what happens with cowardice in the face of the enemy in combat. These cops are trained for exactly that moment. That's why he was there. He thought he was doing the best. He thought he was doing a good job. He said he was doing what he was trained to do.
Because he ID'd the shooter in the location.
He was cowering.
Absolutely.
When he should have been saving children.
He was totally unprepared. And we had Representative Mark Meadows on the show earlier. And what you're proposing, Geraldo, is frankly more government solutions. I mean, we raised the handgun age to 21. If we raised the long gun age to 21, then don't 18, 19, and 2020-year-olds also have the right to self-defense? And I think Mark Meadows.
No,
they don't.
They don't have the right to buy beer.
They don't have. They have the right to go and fight and die for their country, Geraldo, but they don't have the right to own a firearm to defend themselves, male or female, U.S. citizens, 18, 19, 20 years old.
Why do we have this rule about drinking? Because we expect, and I'm as the father of five,
so
and
let's add
Steve
more rules,
has his children. You watch children grow up. They go through these teenage years, and they are evolving. They have a boyfriend problem, a girlfriend problem. They've been bullied. They've been this or that. There are issues that we don't want them drinking. They're going to go drive. They're going to get in trouble. If you can't buy beer, how is it that you can buy an AR-15? 5 of the last 6 massacres have been committed with this killing weapon.
Buying beer is not enshrined in our Constitution, Geraldo, in the Second Amendment that said we have the right to defend
There
ourselves
are no
as free
absolute
citizens in a free country. There are some absolute rights, like your right to say what you want with the First Amendment. And why should a technocrat, a government employee, decide when I get the right to defend myself? A 19-year-old girl on dangerous streets, why couldn't she carry a weapon if necessary?
Major, you know I love you. But you have a situation here where you have a kid 39 times cops called to his house. The administrators in the school don't want him in the building with a backpack. And this kid, hold it, this kid can go to a gun store, put down his $1,000, I wonder where he got it, and get an AR-15. So here's a troubled kid visited by the authorities. Right. Everyone thinks that he's the pariah, the next school shooter, and he can buy an AR-15. And that keeps your kids safe? My goodness, I'm telling you, the President of the United States has evolved on this issue, and you will see. And he will do more for controlling this problem than President Obama ever did.
Geraldo, my only concern is that more of a mental illness problem? And I grew up in a family where my dad and my brother, they love, and many South Carolinians love when hunting season opens up, and they're able to go out there as a father-son team, and my dad taught my brother how to hunt. If they can't do that until he's 21 years old...
He couldn't buy a gun. It's about buying a gun.
But they can still use the gun?
Yeah.
I mean, I think... Yes.
Ainsley, there is no reason to own an AR-15 unless you're in some sports club. If you're in some sports club,
I own one, and I would use it to defend myself.
But you know, Pete, I got no problems with you owning it.
Why do you get to decide that I'm acceptable and the guy next to me isn't acceptable? And who decides when someone is mentally ill or not? And what happened to due process?
Even as you say that, you answer your own question, Pete, because here you are, a prudent, reasonable veteran of the United States Armed Forces, and I don't even though I know that an AR-15 is not used for hunting, never used for hunting, this high velocity with high capacity magazines, give me a break. You're not going to hunt duck with an AR-15. What you're going to do is you're going to pretend to be Rambo. Your whole personality changes when you hold that weapon. And you know this is your trophy weapon. This is you imagine the black helicopters. How are you going to fight off the bad guys? Every video game has an AR-15 clutched. It's the same weapon as the M16 with slight modifications. This kid was dreaming his nightmarish revenge.
Geraldo, you have to remember the worst school shooting was with a handgun. It wasn't an AR-15.
I covered Virginia Tech. I was there. I understand that. But
so is it a slippery slope? That's what the NRA is worried about.
5 of the last 6 massacres was the AR-15.
Sure.
It changes your personality.
Well, then they go to a shotgun.
Ultimately, what you've got to do, though, look at the things that the president has proposed over the last week. He's talked about, and whether or not they would have kept what happened last week from happening. Last week, he talked about how he would like the Department of Justice to look into getting rid or banning gun stocks. Bump stocks. Would that have done anything in this instance? No.
In Las Vegas, it would have. In Las Vegas, it would have.
But not in this one. Then you look at the background checks. Would that have made a difference? Given the fact that the government fell down in so many places, probably not. But then when it comes to the purchase of the gun, this particular long gun, at age 21, would that have stopped it? It looks like
in the previous shooting, though, the kid stole it from his parents.
He was 18 and a half when he bought the gun.
Right,
he was
exactly.
18 and a half.
So if you jack it up to 21.
I mean, my God. Hey, when I spoke to the president, he recounted to me, our faces were like that, he recounted to me his reaction to seeing the survivors. They weren't, the victim of an AR-15 doesn't get, it's not like in the movies where someone wears a sling and you got a little red stain on them. These kids were arms blown off. These kids were maimed.
And Geraldo, I think that's why he came back with a common sense approach that you have concealed.
It is a common sense approach, but it is a historic approach. My point is, here is a Republican conservative president who is going to do more for controlling this problem than any liberal Democrat ever did. With the background checks, with the if you're on the no-fly zone, you don't no-fly list, you don't get a gun. If you have a protection order against you, you don't get a gun license. If you're a troubled 18-year-old from Parkland High School, you don't get a gun.
Okay. Well, yesterday we heard from Wayne LaPierre, the guy who runs the NRA at CPAC. We're going to hear from the president 90 minutes from now. So it'll be interesting to see what he says. Geraldo, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, Geraldo. Great discussion.
Thank you.